I'm Dina Afek. I'm today representing two groups. The first one is Tucson Tikkun community.
Try to speak louder.
Our groups meet once a month to discuss issues of interest from a perspective inspired by the interfaith spiritual activism of Rabbi Michael Lerner. Tikkun means healing, repairing, and transforming the world. We were all stopped in our tracks by this awful, senseless tragedy. We are saddened, horrified, and angry. I hope that we can all stop long enough to not only look at and analyze the context within which this tragedy happened, but to look for tikkun, for healing, repairing, and change, so nothing like that will ever happen again, anywhere. There are alternatives to violence. There are alternatives to shutting down other voices, other opinions. There are alternatives to violence. Let's practice listening and really hearing one another. Let's practice speaking in nonviolent language. Let's make nonviolence a value. Let's demand the same from our leaders. Let's imagine and bring about the community and the world of sharing, caring, generosity, and nonviolence. You have to listen to me one more time. I'm also representing Jewish Voice for Peace, the Tucson chapter. Our group's activism centers around Israel-Palestine. Why should we weigh in today about what happened here in Tucson? The answer is that our world today is connected and interconnected not only through the web, Facebook, and email. The violence in Israel-Palestine is connected to the violence here in Tucson. The vitriol and violent language we hear in Tucson hurled by citizens and certain officials at others who disagree with them is not much different from the vitriol and violent language used by some people in Israel against their Palestinian neighbors or by certain Palestinian groups against Israelis and Jews. There was an eerie similarity in the escalation of violent language in Israel prior to Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin's assassination and the escalation of violent language right here in Arizona prior to the attack last Saturday. Furthermore, the instruments of violence are international. The Caterpillar bulldozers that destroy homes in the occupied West Bank are produced here in the US. Weapons used all over the world, including Israel-Palestine, are made right here at Raytheon. We taxpayers in the US are paying billions of dollars to support and underwrite the illegal and violent occupation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem, as well as the seizure of Gaza. The walls between us and those born across the borders in this state that were created by cruel and unjust legislation, as well as the physical walls between us, are not dissimilar to the illegal separation wall between Israelis and Palestinians and separation and discrimination laws over there. We are all touched by violence in various ways, whether we are Americans, Israelis, or Palestinians, or from anywhere else in the world. As members of Jewish Voice for Peace, we are inspired by our Jewish tradition to work together for peace, social justice, equality, human rights, respect for international law, and a US policy based on these ideals. In the context of the violence that occurred in our city, this means to stand with other groups here today, to make the connections, look for links, and to work together for a better tomorrow here and everywhere. We must pray for the healing of all those wounded and those affected by this tragedy. We have to support all those in our community who are suffering. And for those of us who are maybe a little bit more removed, it is incumbent on us, and we have to work our hardest in whichever way we can to decrease the violence and to create an environment that does not allow hate and hatred to flourish again.